Simon & Schuster Audio presents Star Trek Cacophony, a Captain Sulu adventure by J.J. Malloy. Starring George Takei as Captain Sulu, with Simon Jones, Marianne Plunkett, Lynn Thigpen, and Lee Wilcox.
Wonderful. Reel-to-reel tape recorders. I love antique machines. There's just something about electromagnetic transducers that I find so quaint. Computer on. Now, if Sylvia will cooperate. Hello, Sylvia. All right, let's get started. Open Starfleet Inquiry File Code Number 1123. Error? Hold on there, Sylvia. Have you changed the code on me? That means I have to look it up. Why is it always human error? How about 1132? Ha. Stardate 8774.8. Lieutenant Commander Stuart Mulligan, temporarily assigned to Starbase 12. Summary report and procedural recommendation. Starfleet Inquiry File number 1132. Subject, Hikaru Sulu. Rank, Captain. Starship Excelsior. Stardates... well, I can fill that in later. Planet Stentor. Class M6, Number 4, O'Hare System. To be determined whether Captain Hikaru Sulu violated the Prime Directive through his attempts to resolve a local Stentorian conflict. The following represents a series of interviews, log entries, and depositions taken from Starfleet crew members and officials of the planet Stentor who were connected to this case. Addendum. Please be advised that the recordings of Citizen Ghazi of the planet Stentor were recorded from his open-air broadcasts heard around the planet. Subject refused to submit to an interview. I suppose I should be grateful Starfleet doesn't want this yesterday. Now then, let's see what we have here. It's really just a matter of maintaining some order. A little history on a reel from the Federation's archives. And rolling.
I am Kondravex. I have been chosen by the sensorials among my people to record a recitation of the Stentorian ritual called the Day of Silent Remembrance. I place hot coals in the center of the cave. These represent the fires that burned after the Great War. I pour water over the coals, water to quench the fire and cool the fury in the hearts of Stentorians. Now I begin. In the muffled stillness of the Great War's aftermath, understanding grew like the slow twilight of dawn. The gods had lost faith in us. Their silence was all we deserved. When the rain of bombs seemed to cease, and time was stretched in agony upon the rack of our endurance, silence grew long between attacks. A heavy silence, not to be broken, not even by the chants and prayers of priests who had assured our ancestors the gods had their attention. How much or how little remained of the planet above, none dared guess. But at last, our ancestors chose to brave the surface once more, to see what was left of the world that had been so foolishly destroyed. From the caverns of safety, the survivors returned to stare upon the rubble and the ruin of war. What else was there but silence? And then the wind picked up, and our ancestors first heard the breath of the gods strike the flute trees. And those who were sensitive could hear the voices of the dead in them, and they came to be known as sensorials. And from the words of our ancestors, we found the wisdom to rebuild our civilization. For the gods exist on the wind, and the wind's song is the song of the gods, mournful and pained.
Sylvia, we'll use this as Appendix A. Title, Historical and Cultural Background. Also some introductory note. This recording was taken from Starfleet's archives and is included here for the light it sheds on Stentorian practices and beliefs. Who knows if anyone will find that useful? Well, you never can be sure, eh, Sylvia? Now, let's quickly check our other sources before we, or should I say you, put this in some order.
Captain's Log, Stardate 8764.3. We have just received orders from the Federation to proceed to planet Stentor, located in the O'Hare system. Our mission is to investigate a disturbance emanating from the planet, which is interfering with subspace communications throughout the quadrant. Records indicate that the Federation's first contact mission took place over 20 years ago. No further contact has been made to date.
Ha ha ha! Look at that. Well, Sylvia, I haven't seen a vintage C60 audio cassette, or in many an investigation. Let's dig out the D5M, and on it we have a deposition by the Stentorian proconsul, who is the same woman we've already heard from, Condravex, now the leader of the planet Stentor. Madam.
Testing 1, 2, 3. I am Condravex. This is my response to the Federation regarding the visit of the starship Excelsior under the command of Captain Sulu. You must understand the lessons of our history. The Great War proved that too much technology led to our destruction. It was not with external things that peace would be found. For generations after the Great War, the sensorials and common citizens lived a harmonious existence. Practicing a philosophy of contemplation and meditation, we flourished. That is, until one day a rebel arose in our midst. It was for this reason that Captain Sulu arrived, and things will never be the same.
Note, cacophony, from the ancient Greek, literally meaning bad sound, unpleasant, inharmonious, without coherence. Nicely put, especially around here. Oh, well, never mind. Try and concentrate. This is an investigation of charges lodged against Captain Hikaru Sulu. Category, Prime Directive. Regarding violations of the Prime Directive, we have many examples. Note, see for example, case files titled Kirk James Tiberius. Well, I should say the bulk of those files equals the size of that old Earth tome War and Peace. Sylvia, delete reference to Tolstoy. Sylvia, consult the Shakespeare Concordance and get me 5 quotations on justice. I'll choose one later. It is not surprising to discover that many of these cases concerning the Prime Directive turn out to be failures of communication to one degree or another. As it happens, communication skills and technology play important roles in this case. The Excelsior was under Federation orders to investigate subspace communication interference emanating from the planet Stentor. Such interference was unusual in and of itself, but reportedly beyond the capabilities of Stentorian technology. We find an element of urgency introduced to an otherwise routine follow-up mission to First Contact. Routine. The Excelsior could not be prepared for what was discovered. Exhibit A.
Roll called.
Where's Exhibit A? I can't proceed without Exhibit A.
The
The labels were carefully made. Sylvia, you can't have let me down. Ah! Ha! You little rascal.
Get up, Jacob. Days a breaking. There's more coffee a cooking and there's bread a baking. Roll out, Stentor. Come and get it. Get it while she's hot and spitting the skillet. All talk, all the time, and making my time your time. This is the Gazi who speaks, sees, hears all the wonders of the universe, takes them and like a farmer seeding the fields, tosses them into the air and straight to you. Yes, indeed. This is the Gazi, the one, the only, taking down the words from the great beyond and telling you that all you have to do is listen, listen, listen to the voices from above.
The Romance of Helen Trent.
For I have been blessed, my fellow Stentorians, with the ability to hear the words of the gods. And it is my privilege to bring those words to you. Listen for yourselves. Now everyone can hear.
Look, you got a letter from your sister, Bessie.
Oh, Bessie.
What does she say? What does she
Well,
say? Anything?
She's just wonderful
Is she?
herself. But her
Good.
son, Willie.
Willie. Willie,
he-
that's the one with the high blood pressure.
Yeah,
The one who
that's...
sleeps on the floor to keep his blood pressure down.
Yeah, that's the one.
Smart kid.
Yes.
Yes. What about Willie?
Well, he broke his back.
I'm glad to hear
If
that.
this is an example of Gaussian broadcasting, I say pull the
on
plug.
account of these
But it would appear this is what was encountered by Captain Sulu when he first entered orbit around Stentor. Citizen Ghazi had managed, by cobbling together a combination of old and newly invented sonic devices, to override every frequency on the planet. Not only has he commandeered the broadcast frequencies and emergency airwaves, but he has established a virtually inescapable wall of sound. Truly a bully pulpit. The following entry is from Captain Sulu.
Captain's Log, Stardate 8766.3. The Excelsior has entered orbit around the planet Stentor. Our subspace communication system has been paralyzed. We are effectively cut off from Starfleet. Growing disruption in ship-to-surface communication has made it necessary to transport to Stentor sooner than I had planned. However, the proconsul, Kondravex, is willing to meet with me. It is to my advantage that she was the Stentorian contact when Starfleet first visited this planet. I have consulted the ship's library for background information relating to the Federation's first contact mission to Stentor. The report documents a civilization reasonably advanced, genuinely unwarlike, and generally stable. Most of the planet is uninhabitable due to a planetary war generations ago. The population is small and localized. It was a simple matter to locate the source of the transmission disturbance. As my friend Mr. Spock might say, the circumstances are fascinating. The site of the sonic source is an immense tower. Our enhanced computer imager reveals a curious structure comprised of hundreds, perhaps thousands of audio amplification devices. We are picking up strange and confusing broadcasts. What follows is a sample.
going out from Gaza. Coming at you, baby.
Stronger than dirt.
From my world to your world.
Our orders are to clear up this interference, but our task is made more complicated by the evidence of growing dissent on the planet. As I can testify, first contact is a delicate affair. We must always be conscious of the prime directive. But I sometimes think that the difficulties and challenges of a follow-up mission are underestimated. As a starship captain, I find once again I must stretch the tight wire of diplomacy. I have assigned Science Officer Tara Spiro to investigate the source of the disturbance on the surface of the planet. I'm confident that Lieutenant Spiro will quickly determine what's causing the subspace interference. In the meantime, I will explore our diplomatic possibilities in discussion with the Stentorian proconsul, Condravex. Personal log. I've cross-referenced all available data on Stentorian flute trees and have downloaded it for personal reference. The following recording was given to me by Mr. Spock, who first informed me of the flute tree's existence. It would appear that the flute tree plays a role in the meditation practice.
I don't think we'll be needing your treatise on Stentorian flora, Captain. Sylvia, please insert section from Lieutenant Tara Spiro's debriefing.
Captain Sulu acted fully in accordance with Starfleet regulations. It is insulting and demeaning for you to suggest otherwise.
Loyalty is a wonderful virtue, Lieutenant. However, I think, Sylvia, we need to hear the on-site logs of Lieutenant Spiro.
I'm standing near the broadcast tower. My tricorder indicates that, as we guessed, this is the main source of the subspace communications disruption. I can see a growing number of Stentorians gathering in front of the tower. The mood, as I can best describe it, is restless. In accordance with Regulation 23-4C, Section K, I will keep an on-site log of my activities. Captain Sulu has briefed me on the situation here. A group, calling themselves the Ghazi, after their leader, has made what I must call a remarkable advance in the communications technology of Stentor. It's as if, in the 20 years since first contact, they've progressed from using the wheel to racing around in automobiles. Essentially, the Ghazi have the ability to capture or collect what amount to stray radio waves, which they then rebroadcast. These broadcasts are intensely disturbing to the small sect of Stentorians known as the Sensorials. The volume and content of the broadcasts is actually affecting this group physically. I have heard reports of serious illness among the Sensorials. The Ghazi will not stop. I remember the first time I heard phantom broadcasts, when I was at the academy. Broadcast radio waves not only travel through space, but in a strange way, through time. Those I heard must have been hundreds of years old. The technical ability of Ghazi certainly is remarkable, although he does give the impression to his followers that this innovation is entirely his own invention. Modifications continue daily on his equipment, increasing his range and power. I don't know exactly how to take Ghazi's claim that he's been divinely inspired. But if he's to be taken as a religious leader, he's unlike any religious leader I've ever known. A broadcast is beginning.
Take me out to the prom.
And here we are, taking it easy now. You're waiting for the pitch, getting ready for the words, the many voices. And by the way, this silence of Stentor, dating back to the Great War, nowhere has it ever been said that it was permanent.
Yesterday,
a date which will live in infamy.
Not that anyone was listening. There we go. That's the message. Going, going, gong. Out to each of you. Listen to the voices of the great beyond. In the countless Stentorian orbits since the Great War, how many have wondered if this world is all there is? Are they just stories told to frighten children about shadowy figures and faint voices? Or should we say that no myth is without its kernel of truth?
Curious. A rather veiled reference to first contact? Do Ghazi and his followers have knowledge of the Federation? Sylvia, please bring up the oral chronicle of Kondravex, proconsul of Stentor.
Our decision not to inform all of Stentor of our first meeting with Federation representatives was a mistake. We were concerned with the damage gossip and rumor might have caused our culture. We considered the Federation unnecessary. A small group of Stentorians, the Sensorials, were informed at the time, and that is as far as it went. We have always been a slow-witted species. It took the Great War to show us the gods had lost faith in us. Why should they heed the prayers of so destructive a people? As much as I would like to believe that Ghazi has indeed heard their voices again, I cannot. Why would the gods choose a tinkerer to bear their message? It is a trick of some kind. The very fact that I can say so is proof. For would not the gods strike me dead for my blasphemy? When Ghazi first began to build the tower, we did not seriously consider the option of forcibly closing him down. Our own use of radio signals was limited, chiefly music to enhance contemplation and meditation. We did not know what his intentions were at first. Unfortunately, we are not gifted with second sight. Had I known then what I know now, the snow plains of the West would still be silent. But we thought, we can always turn the receiver off. Given time, everyone would grow tired of Ghazi's babbling. Calm would be restored. But then he began to infiltrate the very air around us. He began to blast us from his tower of Babel. And the flute trees began to wither, and those among us who could translate the music of the trees began to wither and die along with them. He must be stopped.
Higgledy-piggledy, here we lie, picked and plucked and put in a pie. Arise, ye children of redemption. Our prodders brought forth the great big bang, by gosh. And the big bang begot the big lie. And the big lie was silence. Please, no talking, no rustling. Sit up straight, eyes front, clasp hands. Hush, little children, and don't you cry. Stentor's gonna feed you the big old lie. Guaranteed not to crack, warp, shrink, rust, corrode, or creak at night.
Broke his back? How'd he do that?
Well, on account of he's left-handed.
Hit 'em up and move 'em out. Yee-haw! We're entering the dark and dreaded realm of paradox. Quack, quack. Where the silence is as loud and brassy as a storm on the rocky ruins by the sea. To hear the voices, you got to listen. That's true enough, but I won't rest until Stentor is all singing, all talking, all dancing. Clap your hands and sing along.
Captain's Log, on-site record, stardate 8767.4. Lieutenant Spiro and I have transported to the planet's surface. We find ourselves in what seems to be a natural amphitheater of smoothly worn stone. At one end rises a great cliff several 100 meters high, also of white stone. There are irregular dark patches that occur here and there on the cliff face. But now I recognize that these are cave dwellings. The other end opens into a valley, except for 3 long rows of trees which I recognize, the flute trees. I realize that there seems to be no other plant life in this arena. What's that? I cannot place the sound. Startling in the quiet of this courtyard. Ah, but now I see. Across the way, children are playing. It sounds as if they are right behind me. And the flute trees, you hear their sound even before you are aware of the faintest breath breeze. You can hear the subtle variations of the wind, truly waves of song rising.
If I remember rightly, Lieutenant Spira recorded an account of the meeting with Kondrovex.
We've just completed our meeting with the Stentorian proconsul. When we arrived, we were led into the cavern and down stone steps into the chamber where Kondrovex awaited us. Surprisingly, it was not dark. I know that I shouldn't take it personally, but Kondrovex might very well be the most inscrutable being I have ever encountered. The result of her religious training, I'm sure, but still an unnerving experience. After exchanging formal greetings, Captain Sulu broke the ice by asking some questions about the Stentorian flute tree. I will never forget the sadness with which she replied. You should have heard them once. The broadcasts are effectively destroying them and my people.
Welcome and hello. Tell me, do we have anyone from the Federation in today's audience? Now don't be shy. Come on up here. Let's give a warm Stentorian welcome to the newcomers from the chaotic abyss between this world and next. I can't hear you. Yes, that's right. They're really out of this world. And your name is? No, don't tell me. I'm keen to guess. Sulu, am I right? Hey, yo, I'm on a roll here. And you must be, let me see, Lieutenant Spiro? Am I right? Am I close? Now, Kondrovex, shame on you. Didn't anyone ever tell you it's wrong to keep secrets? Well, as long as you're here, now hear this.
Great Monder, the one that will be. That's your nuts, the rent there. Yeah, give up your young below, and people have got to know whether or not their president is crook. Well, I'm not a crook.
Yes, well, you see what happened was, he had a donut in his right-hand pocket, and when he went to take it out with his left hand, he...
Captain's Log Supplemental. Our meeting with Proconsul Kondrovex was interrupted by a most disturbing transmission. I don't know what to think. This was no broadcast, no ordinary broadcast. It was as if I were standing within one of those old-fashioned funnel speakers. The sound was not only all around me, it went through me, too. After recovering from the initial shock, both Lieutenant Spiro and I raced to the tower itself, but the quiet of Stentor had reasserted itself. I am most disturbed by Citizen Ghazi's mention of Lieutenant Spiro and me by name. While it is possible that he has employed spies within Kondrovex's circle, it is more likely that he is monitoring ship-to-surface communication. This greatly alters our position here. It is critical that we do not become the focal point in this conflict. Lieutenant Spiro and I are to meet with Kondrovex again in 2 hours. In the meantime, I'm going to take a closer look at the grove of flute trees. The sounding tube of the flute tree reveals splinters and cracks.
As I record this oral chronicle, a growing fear rises within me. Captain Sulu is commendably quiet and seems capable. But I cannot help feeling that the Federation he represents is overruled by technology, and those who are slaves to machines are likely to bully those who have chosen a different path. I must show Captain Sulu that we Stentorians are not to be bullied. Meanwhile, I can only hope that we can tend to our damaged flute trees. The ringing in my ears is growing daily, and I have received notice that other sensorials are beginning to lose contact with the voices we have come to depend on. I am overwhelmed by despair. What can I do to lead my people out of this predicament? Will we destroy ourselves again? Must we depend on these strangers? If only I could consult the gods. If only they would reveal their wisdom.
I think my second meeting with Contervex was quite an improvement over the first. There was one peculiar moment when I wasn't quite sure how to respond. The proconsul approached me, took my hand, and holding it close to her, then leaned forward and pressed her lips on each side of my throat. I can only interpret this as a sign of friendship.
At our second meeting, I performed the Gore hand clasp and the Riordan bite, two signs universally understood as aggressive and violent. I must say, he did not flinch. However, now he knows that we cannot be taken lightly.
Sylvia, I should make a note of that. These finer points of exotic cultures sometimes escape note in the field.
At our second meeting, Captain Sulu explained to me the source of Ghazi's broadcasts. Sound waves generated from every corner of the universe. Random, pointless sound, not the voices of the gods, as Ghazi believes. But this does not ease my battle against hopelessness. Each day, new damage is inflicted on our traditions, not to mention the shattered glass and broken pottery resulting from the vibration of his blasted pronouncements.
Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men?
Live from the Tower of Power,
Shadow knows.
this is Ghazi calling all Stentorians. Today's topic is an old one. Does might make right? If not, what does it make? From the time of the Great War, silence has been sufficient to keep us in our places. But since I first began to listen, since I first began to speak, we have discovered that beneath the high-sounding phrases of Contervex and her fellow sensorials, there's the same old solutions always employed by the powerful. Bring out the clubs, eh? No wonder our beneficent proconsul embraces these newcomers. They'll do the job for her and crush us all back into the dust.
How many species have we encountered, only to find the patterns of human history being replayed? Sylvia, find the earliest reference to the Tower of Babel for use as an epigram.
It is quite simple, I told Captain Sulu. Ghazi had very clearly crossed the line between a difference of opinion and all-out rebellion. He is destroying us. Though perhaps all that can be seen is a crazing of a fanatic, what is happening is that the fabric of our society is every day increasingly torn and frayed. It is not his message, though I find it abhorrent and obnoxious. It is the medium. You see, he is destroying the flute trees. The wind song of the tree is like the mortar that holds together a brick wall. But in this case, what's held together is our sense of balance, our well-being. When the breeze sounds the trees, all Stentorians are as one. It is our time of community, our time of communication. More importantly, there are a group of stentorians, the sensorials, who by listening intensely to the sound of the flute trees can actually hear the voices of those who have come before us. We are in touch with the souls of Stentor, and these voices have managed to guide us in a peaceful existence. If the flute trees go, I fear our civilization will cease.
Captain's Log Supplemental. The situation on the planet Stentor is moving toward a crisis. My first option is to direct a meeting between Condravex and Ghazi himself. I have a great deal of faith in the virtues of direct dialogue in resolving problems. However, at this time, Ghazi is unreachable. His tower is surrounded by his followers who will allow no strangers access. I can only hope that Condravex will find us a way in.
Under no circumstances could I meet with Ghazi. I would have guessed that Captain Sulu was making a joke. Patiently, I explained how that was impossible. It was not simply a matter of etiquette. I could not meet with Citizen Ghazi. The sensorials, a portion of the population, rarely more than a seventh, are truly better in tune with the wind song than the other citizens. It is a genetic disposition to the contemplative life, and the sensorials do not interact with the citizens. For such a one, and do I need to tell you, for one such as I, the wind song is an ecstatic commingling of all the souls of Stentor, and the flute tree is at the very heart of this experience. As the trees have been damaged, we are also damaged. The voices are disappearing. If he isn't stopped, I will die. You can be sure of that. But it isn't a matter of my life or the lives of other sensorials. It is our way of life that will shrivel.
Captain's Log, Stardate 8767.9. What the first contact report failed to emphasize was the religious nature of Condravex's position. Rather than a governor, her role is much more like a high priestess. I was also unaware of the caste system which seems to dominate this culture. One is either in or out. You hear the voices or you don't. It is strangely ironic that Ghazi developed a system that brought voices to all Stentorians. Yet this broadcasting of his is hampering our communications, killing the flute trees, and doing harm to the sensorials. Somehow, I must make contact with him and shut down his base of operations long enough to explain the harm he is doing. Perhaps a radio broadcast.
Good evening, Mr. North and South America, and all the ships and clippers at sea. Let's go to press blast, London.
Come
The
out,
claims of
come
surrender
out,
for the Italian army in Ethiopia have just been handed to Mussolini's representative.
This just in. Condravex remains cooped up in her chambers, seeking the salvation of silence. Lots of luck, Condravex, baby. Way to go.
But I still say it looks like tomato juice.
Well, just take one taste of V8.
Wow, it's your...
Science Officer's Log, Stardate 8768.8. I've returned to the Excelsior. Stentorian broadcasts continue to be monitored closely, but waiting for the inevitable interruption from the Ghazi is nerve-wracking. I think every pause will turn into one of his harangues. Because it is evident that Ghazi is picking up Excelsior communications, the captain has ordered on-board silence, and all internal business is now being conducted the old-fashioned way. However Ghazi made the leap to his present technological status, after examining the flute trees, I have determined that one aspect of his broadcasting depends upon the Stentorian environment. I'm referring to the broadcast that overwhelmed us in the chambers of Condravex, for which no receiver was required. This is because Ghazi uses a frequency which agitates the sounding cone of the flute tree. Ironically, The tree that's at the very center of Stentorian quietism effectively amplifies the Gaussian transmissions.
This is Condravex. I am profoundly aware that it is unusual for me to broadcast to you, my fellow Stentorians, on a day that is not marked on our calendar. But I can only say that circumstances demand extraordinary actions. Our survival has long been linked to our understanding of silence, in which true freedom rests. But now, the Gazi make a mockery of our faith and spoil the sanctuaries of Stentor. This brood of mockers, led by the false prophet Gazi, make claims of godliness and lay charges of violence, hypocrisy, and conspiracy against me. Were it just a matter of insults, you'd hear nothing from me. But Gazi has gone beyond rough speech. To begin with...
Excuse me, Condravexi, but did I give you permission to speak? I don't think so. Just as long as this is my wavelength, if you catch my meaning, I'll just take over now, thank you. Yes, I know exactly what you're going to say, as well as if I heard you say it. How this here operation is based on fraud, and how your little friends from the Planetarium of Feds, or Federation of Planets, or whatever they call themselves, that they're behind all the voices. There is no message from the gods, because if the gods were going to speak to Stentor, they'd call you first. Am I right, Condravex? Well, God is a concept by which we measure our own pride, and you must be pretty upset that the gods chose me to receive the word. But yoo-hoo! The gods don't care about Stentorian protocol, K-Vex. Now, you all know how I feel about secrets. Secrets bad. Talk good. So let me share another secret. Ready? Sure. It was people like you that made the Great War. You and your secret weapons, your secret plans.
We now resume our normal broadcast day.
Well, you tell Bessie the next time to tell Willie that if he's got a donut in his right-hand pocket, to try to take it out with his right hand.
Yeah, but that's hard to do when you have your pants on backwards.
Captain's log. Like a startled deer, Condravexis bolted when she ought to have stood still. It had been difficult enough to convince her of the necessity of making a broadcast. Even in an emergency, she is reluctant to violate Stentorian tradition. Perhaps I emphasized the importance of the broadcast over the need to choose the right time. I had hoped that the Excelsior would have been ready to prevent Gazi's interfering. Perhaps she misunderstood me. Perhaps I didn't make myself clear. It is hard to imagine the situation worsening, but I must now add the damage done to Condravex's image to the Stentorian mess. If I'm right about Gazi, he will make the most of this.
I wonder, Captain, if you imagined someone like me examining the damage done, this Stentorian mess, as you call it. Hard to imagine the situation worsening. But let's continue, Sylvia.
Everywhere, the effects of the Gaussian broadcasts are evident, and though my contact with Stentorians has been brief, I can detect flashes of irritability, fleeting lapses of attention. Of special concern is the condition of Condravex, but I must say that I'm not sure that I am thinking as clearly as I would like, as I need to. Gazi has a real knack for prompting reaction. When he's on the air, I can almost believe that nothing would make me happier than blasting him to smithereens. But this is not a reaction I can allow myself to even entertain. Gazi shields himself by claiming divine inspiration, the right of free speech. It's as if he knows precisely the arguments that tie our hands. Certainly the presence of the Excelsior is inciting him to go further.
The natterjacks of negativity would like nothing better than to see old Gazi beamed out to a far-flung quadrant of the galaxy, far beyond the shadows of the moon of Stentor. Not today. Hello, this is Gabbin with Gazi. What's up? You're on. Gazi, I just want to say that I think what you're doing is wonderful. Why, thank you for listening, listener. But there's no point talking to me. It's just like talking to yourself. That's free speech, friends. And freedom of speech without freedom of the airwaves is like a goldfish in a bowl with nowhere to go. Nowhere at all. Navigator, plot a course direct to the soul of Stentor. All aboard, ting-a-ling-ling! It's the Gazi man here with useful tips for self-improvement, and time's a-wasting because everything I've said to you has been all about time. There's the great fat mystery for you. The time for silence is over. It's through. It is kaput. The show's over, kiddies. No time to delay. It's reality time. Uncut, unexpurgated, unadulterated.
The old ones. I cannot hear the ancestors. I cannot hear the ancestors. Laughter in the hallway. I'm sure I heard it. Shouts in the street, that too I've heard. Is that what our history comes to? A day when shouts in the street break the quiet? The visitors, how could I have trusted them? They've come to conquer. First me, then the council. But they'll crush Gazi too, and we'll be fed to the beasts, our bones indistinguishable, our names forgotten, unspoken. Unspoken? No. I will make sure that Kondravex will be heard. I know the word he won't pronounce, the word he glides around. It's doom. That's what he means. My doom. Stentor's doom. The doom we all salvaged from the Great War. We're doomed for the tomb. That's it. Doom and tomb and gloom. Perhaps the gods have spoken to Gazi after all. Yes, only such a one as he is fit to tell us. Doom.
Have I not made a solemn vow that I would not cease until the tyranny of Kondravex was trampled in the mud? I wish the gods had not called on me to complete this task. I cannot bear to even speak of the losses that I have suffered. I did not hear the voices as a child. Most of you did not hear the voices, but my family were sensorials. All of them could hear the calling of the flute trees. I wanted to be a sensorial. I sat and waited and tried to listen. And then one day, the voices of the gods came to me just as they now come to you. Haven't you heard the voices from beyond? How they plead and demand, how they mutter and shout. The ways of the word are infinite. Keep the word secret and you'll find 1,000 sorrows. It's there, in the air. Take it in with one deep, long breath. Now let it out, everybody. My patience is at an end. You cannot resist. I am Gazi, the all-hearing, all-knowing, all-talking. Do not ignite the engine of my righteous wrath, for what I do must be done. The voices tell me so. Now hear this.
Measuring, right to the body, a left hook to the jaw, and Sulu is down. The count is 5, 6, 7, 8. The men are in the ring. The fight is over. On a technical knockout, Maximilian is beaten in 1 round.
I'm sitting on a ledge overlooking the main plaza from which the broadcast tower rises. It is practically acoustically perfect. You can hear a whisper from across the way. But now it is filled with groups of citizens, talking. The broadcast has stirred them up. There's another disagreement. The very air seems charged. Since her last broadcast, Condravex has remained out of sight. The absence of her guidance seems to be accelerating the Stentorian decline. However, Ghazi has always been the pivotal figure of this affair, and it is he who will be key in determining the future of Stentor. For now, everyone is, what's the expression, waiting for the other shoe to drop. No matter what I think of Citizen Ghazi, the fact is he must be a technical wizard to have developed the devices he has. Unfortunately, his talents tend too much towards self-indulgence. According to the Prime Directive, that's not for me to say. There is a quality of insanity in his inspiration that doesn't make me very hopeful he'll respond to reason. My reason. What's that old line? There's no touch of genius without a touch of madness. I need to show him that the Prime Directive speaks to him as much as it speaks to me. My ship, my crew, my uniform. These are meaningful because of the Prime Directive, not the other way around. The Prime Directive strives for tolerance, if not understanding, of other life forms and other ways of being. Sooner or later, the Federation will act to stop its interference. If later, I don't think there'll be much left of Stentor as it exists today. If sooner, then it's up to me. Perhaps I can arrange for a change of perspective so he can see things from the other side. He views the world as a religious experience. What would the equivalent be in his own thinking? A conversion. Ghazi must be converted.
Interesting. Sylvia, take note. Captain Sulu had stumbled upon the area of treacherous footing between the rights of the individual and the rights of society. Ideally, we hope to find a balance, but life is often less than ideal. I think we have Lieutenant Spiro's official account of the command decision. Sylvia?
Federation deposition. Lieutenant Terra Spiro, Science Officer, the Excelsior. You must understand, Stentorian society was rapidly breaking down. Yes, the Excelsior's presence was a catalyst to these events, but consider what might have happened if a Klingon vessel, for example, had been in our place. Captain Sulu acted fully in accordance with Starfleet regulations. It is insulting and demeaning for you to suggest otherwise. Furthermore, as a full participant, I must make it clear that any judgment handed down against Captain Sulu must also be applied to me. Please refer to my science logs for full details of all actions taken.
Captain's Log, Stardate 8769. I have instructed Lieutenant Spiro to beam back to the planet's surface disguised as one of Ghazi's followers. Her orders are to infiltrate the control center in the broadcast tower. Once there, she has devised a plan to set up a simple electronic loop that should short-circuit his broadcasting capability. If she is successful, she is to find her way to Ghazi's studio, where she will transmit his coordinates to the transporter room. My hope is that the experience of beaming aboard a starship will give Citizen Ghazi a new perspective. Captain's Log, Personal Addendum. This is a risk, I know. I am alone responsible for this decision. I am putting my science officer into a dangerous situation. However, one new person will be less conspicuous and have a better chance of infiltrating the tower. I have before me the life of a crew member,
Well, Captain, I'm sure that you're aware there are moments when all the rules and regulations don't make a decision any easier. When you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. Between the devil and the deep blue sea. As you say, you are alone responsible.
4 out of 5 doctors who listen to Ghazi prefer Ghazi's broadcast.
Science Officer's Log, Stardate 8769.5. Lieutenant Terra Sparrow reporting. I was able to slip by the security guards at the door to the tower. I find this vast complex almost empty.
With a heavy heart, making it to the fast lane.
Our scanners indicated that the master control should be located somewhere in this vicinity.
And here now the news.
My tricorder indicates that it's located in the room just up
this
ahead.
Hesitation, this doubt, making me reconsider the patience that is the home.
It appears that I can create a feedback loop simply by plugging this cable into this jack.
Go to
Lieutenant Sparrow to transporter room. Lock onto these coordinates. 2 to beam up.
Captain's log. I saw a possible solution and took it. The mission was successful. Once aboard the Excelsior, Citizen Ghazi fell silent, awed, no doubt, by the splendor of a Federation starship. Ghazi has undergone a true spiritual experience of some sort, and the delusion that made him think that the gods were speaking directly to him has passed. Gently, I explained to him the true source of his revelation. I was impressed by how quickly Ghazi was able to comprehend the reality of what had occurred. It is evident that Ghazi's broadcasts were motivated by a desire to unite the Stentorians, not to separate them. The need to include all Stentorians in the fundamental act of listening went a bit awry. And yet I feel confident that Stentor has a better chance of surviving now than it did before we arrived. It was as if the Federation heard a cry for help and came to the aid of this planet. I have arranged for Contravex to see our medical officers. Perhaps the atmosphere on board the Excelsior will provide a conducive environment for these 2 Stentorians to find a solution to their problems.
My recovery is due in large part to the attention provided by Captain Sulu's medical staff. These past few days have been worse than any nightmare. I was groping in the darkness. Without the voices of our ancestors to lead me, I experienced a profound loneliness. But strangely, as I lie in a starship suspended above my planet, I realized that we sensorials have been living a separate life from the other citizens on our planet. The past was the focus of our lives, but the present is what we experience together. There has been an insurmountable wall between me and the citizenry. Ghazi was indeed reaching out to me, to everyone. The voices of the gods remain elusive, but I believe I have heard a message that will allow me to unite all the people of Stentor. The supporters of Ghazi are no less transformed by the experience. Ghazi himself begs to be reconciled to Stentorian practice. We both know how much we each owe to Captain Sulu, even though we did not have to say a word. Some experiences transcend language.
How nice for you, how nice for Stentor. Don't we just adore happy endings, Sylvia? But rules are rules, and without a doubt some rules have been bent, shall we say. Sylvia, bring up Captain Sulu's log entry of his visit to the grove of flute trees. Also, cross-reference any notes Lieutenant Spiro may have made. It is here that I think we may in fact find our justification for said rule-bending. The Federation has a decided soft spot for exotic flora.
Though the atmospheric conditions have been simulated, there is no substitute for being here and actually catching the rising tones of the flute trees. I was intrigued by the response Contravex made. You should have heard them once. I have taken the opportunity to examine the flute tree more closely, and the sounding tubes reveal splinters and cracks, damaging the harmonic range of this remarkable plant.
Interesting. This flute tree is split open. Apparently, Ghazi's broadcasts agitate the sounding cones of the tree. Ironically, the tree that's at the very center of Stentorian quietism effectively amplifies the Ghazian transmissions. I've noted that as the flute trees become damaged, the portion of the population known as sensorials exhibits a change in behavior. Depression, and in some cases, physical debilitation have been documented.
Sylvia, I'm counting on you to put this into formal terms. You know we're a team. Introduce everything you can find on Stentorian flute trees, along with Federation procedure regarding endangered flora and fauna. Regarding Captain Sulu, Starship Excelsior, file number 1132. In any investigation of charges relating to the alleged violation of the Prime Directive, we must always bear in mind the peculiar circumstances which might demand such action. So far so good, Sylvia? In the first place, let us underline the fact that no complaint has been lodged by Stentor in this affair. Therefore, this report can only deal with the internal guidelines established by the Federation, guidelines which necessarily must be flexible. All evidence indicates that the initial situation developed through startling innovations of Stentorian technology. Captain Sulu's first order of business was to resolve those problems said innovations created for Federation communication. Upon discovering the facts of the case, Captain Sulu proceeded in accordance with regulations. Note, the Ghazian broadcasts not only caused physical damage to a rare plant, but there is evidence that they greatly affected the psychological stability of the entire population. While Captain Sulu did interfere a wee bit more than the Federation guidebook recommends, I think it is safe to say that he was able to employ Stentorian cultural values and practices to bring about a better understanding of their faith and their place in the galaxy. Captain Sulu acted to preserve Federation security, while at the same time showing the highest regard for Stentorian integrity. It is our recommendation that no further action be taken. An officer of Captain Sulu's ability is of far greater use to the Federation in the field, as it were. However, I cannot close without remarking that we must consider with greater caution our own subspace transmissions, as it is apparent that we can never be sure who is listening. I think that should do it, Sylvia.
Captain's Log, Stardate 8775.6. Contravex and the Stentorian Council have refused my offer to participate fully in the Federation. It is not a complete rejection, however. Their eyes and ears are open to the possibilities. It is a powerful feeling. For a few minutes, I stood for the entire Federation, making real contact with another world. As Lieutenant Spiro and I prepared to depart, I was honored to discover Contravex among those assembled to see us off. I took her hand in farewell. I think for a moment she flinched. I have just received word from the Federation. Lieutenant Commander Stuart Mulligan has cleared me of charges regarding the mission to Stentor. The Excelsior under my command is awaiting further orders from Starfleet. Until that time, I think a little R&R might be in order. Navigator, plot a course for Wrigley's Pleasure Planet, Warp Factor 2.
And the voices faded to one voice, and that voice told me, "We are not alone, dear friends. And Sulu spoke to me, and Sulu said, all is well. This is the Gazi, ending another broadcast day, telling all of you Sulu is with us always. And so to bed.
Star Trek Cacophony, a Captain Sulu adventure, was written by J.J. Malloy. Starring George Takei as Captain Sulu, Simon Jones as Lieutenant Commander Stuart Mulligan, Marianne Plunkett as Lieutenant Tara Spiro, Lynn Thigpen as Kandravex, and Lee Wilkoff as Ghazi. The recording engineers were Jesse Plumley and Rick Dasher, with post-production by Stephen Erickson and sound design by Karen Perlman. George Takei was directed by Jill Demby Guest. The associate producer was Christine Nelson. Star Trek Cacophony was produced and directed by Karen Fruman. The executive producer was Sandra K. Moore. This has been a presentation of Simon & Schuster Audio.